Welcome to Season 4 of Spin is a four-letter word, Maroon's Mark. I'm John Maroon. As we celebrate 20 years of Maroon PR, this season is a toast to the relationships, risks, and lessons that shaped our journey. In each episode, I connect with a special guest who's left their mark on me, our agency, or our industry, offering real-world perspective for building what lasts. Grab a drink. Cheers to 20 years. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Spin is a four-letter word, Maroon's Mark. Today, we're going to interview Chad Steele. Chad is the Senior Vice President of Communications for our Baltimore Ravens. And he's been with the Ravens more than 2 decades. He's become a good friend of Maroon PR and a good friend of mine personally. And you guys will, when you see Chad, you might recognize him because if you watch the end of the Super Bowl, Chad is always the big dude that's rushing to get the MVP and the quarterback off the field to the appropriate interviews and whatnot. So you'll recognize the face. You'll see him. There he is right there. And here we go. Chad Steele, Baltimore Ravens. Chad, thank you for making some time for us today. I got a lot of questions I want to ask you about, but I know camp's around the corner. I know you've been on the road, so thank you for making some time.
No, absolutely. It's I'm honored to be asked, and we've been friends for a long time and colleagues, and you know, I love you. I love what you guys do, and I'm excited to be here. So thank you for having me.
No, much appreciated, Chad. Jump in really quick because everybody tuned in. Chad's been with the Ravens over 24 years now. Prior to that, he had a stint for a few years with the Niners, 49ers, and before that, a little bit of time with ESPN. But tell us about your background, but also, Chad, I think your path when you were growing up was very unique. Your dad was a colonel in the Army, and you guys were stationed all over the world. So you had a unique upbringing before your career even started, right?
Yes. Yeah. I was, my dad played football at West Point. When he graduated, he went back to coach. I was born when he went back to coach. I was born at West Point. And in the duplex next to us, our neighbors was Mike Krzyzewski and his family.
Oh my God.
So yeah, so they were classmates, and when my parents would go out and we were younger, the Krzyzewskis would watch us and vice versa. So I was introduced to sports, football and basketball at a very young age, and bounced around a little bit in the United States, went overseas for a lot of my childhood, came back right before high school, and bounced around a little bit more, went to 3 different high schools, went to school in South Carolina. I went to play basketball at Winthrop University, and that's where I got introduced to the NFL. My sophomore year, I was, I wanted to be a doctor. And so I was taking biology and things of that nature. And labs were either in the morning or late afternoon. And we had practice in the morning, practice late afternoon. So my coach said, hey, you're going to have to find something else to do because we pay your way through school. And I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And the Carolina Panthers had started up their inaugural season, and they were training at our facilities until their stadium was built. Our school was just south of Charlotte. And so he got me hooked up with Charlie Dayton, who was the head PR person there at the time. I shadowed them for a day and said, this is what I want to do.
Wow.
And they kind of laughed at me and showed me a stack of resumes and said, all of these people are applying for these jobs, and they all have experience. You have no experience. But for some reason, somebody liked me there, and they said a couple weeks later, right before I left for the summer, hey, why don't you come back and interview? So I interviewed and went back home. My parents were living in Kansas at the time, and I bothered them twice a day, every day for a couple of weeks. Hey, have you made a decision? Can I do anything? I'll come back early. Bruce Spate, who's Charlie's assistant, finally said, Chad, if you stop calling, we'll let you enter. If you call us before we call you, you can't enter. So I was on pins and needles for a few weeks and went out there. I did a training camp internship after my junior year, training camp internship after my senior year. And then because I switched my major so late, I had 15 hours left to graduate. So Winthrop was good enough to keep me on scholarship for that time. I worked in the SID and athletics department. And then any chance I got, I'd go up to Charlotte and help out,
Wow.
Xerox, do whatever I could. And then when I graduated, they didn't have anything. And Charlie, who's best friends with Kevin Byrne, the 2 godfathers of modern NFL PR, stood up on the table for me. And Kevin brought me up here. I did a training camp internship that turned into a season-long internship. There's nothing open at the end of that. So I had made some relationships with people at ESPN who I had worked with, setting up interviews and things of that nature. So I went up there and I was a PA on SportsCenter and NBA Tonight. And it was really, really hard. It was the worst 4 months of my life. It's just, you're in a basement, you're watching games, you're logging, you're cutting highlights. There's a lot of
what
pressure.
you got to do, though, right? To carve.
Yeah. And for me, it wasn't what I wanted to do, but it was a job, and it was a job in sports.
Right.
And so I was there for like 4 months. A couple jobs came open. I was lucky enough to get a couple offers, and of course, San Francisco came calling, and it was Bill Walsh and Jerry Rice. So I went out there. I was out there for 3 years. And then the job came open back here. And I really, John, it's crazy. I had no intention of leaving California. I loved the Niners. I loved Northern California. But my sister Sage was covering the team for, it was not Comcast. What was it before? I can't even remember what it was.
Home Team Sports. What's it?
Something like that.
I think that's what it was called back in the day. Yeah. Back
in the day. So she was covering the Ravens. She was pregnant with her first child, and I was like, "Oh, I don't want to be the one time a year uncle. I want to be there." Awesome. And so I had planned on moving here for 3 or 4 years and moving back out to California. Now here we are, going into my 25th season, which is hard to believe.
Yeah, it's amazing. A couple of things that what you just said, I think, and we'll touch on this in a little bit, but I think with young people wanting to break into any industry, right? For you, it was sports, PR, or whatever, doing what you got to do, moving around. I think it's just making some sacrifices, not making a lot of money for a long time. Like, these are all the things that you got. If you really want to do it, you got to do it. The other thing that resonated with me is just your love of family, right? Whether it's your folks and your siblings and your current family now, but everybody who doesn't know, Chad's sister is a media superstar in her own right, Sage Steele, wonderful woman as well. We had in our market for a long time. So great stuff. So Chad, now fast forward, tell us a little bit about how your role evolved, because obviously Kevin Byrne was there, and then as he retired, that you kept elevating at the Ravens. How has your job at the Ravens evolved over the last couple of decades?
Yeah, I think I came, I was brought in, and I was still very green. We have Patrick Gleason, who's our vice president, who's been here 21 years. Like, he was writing for his high school paper, and he knew this is what he wanted to do through college. So he had gotten experience. He worked in the SID department. He worked in the athletics department. So I didn't have that until I did a training camp internship as a junior, which really was a lot of menial work. So really, my first professional job was the season-long intern here in Baltimore. So I really had maybe 3.5 years of experience before he brought me back here. So I was still very green. And I was the player in the locker room guy, when we have to set up interviews and things of that nature, and prepare players. That was my primary job. I think it helped. I was a former athlete. I'm tall, I'm 6'7". I had been on that side where I had our SID prepping me as I did interviews. So I was a player guy, and I loved that. I think the biggest thing is relationships, So I was doing that. I was an okay writer, not a good writer, not a great writer. So I took classes. I went to McDaniel College. I took online classes with professors just to kind of hone my editing and writing skills. And Kevin at the time was very generous in the off season with time, where I could do it in the afternoon and jump on a call, jump on Zoom, or go up there when I had to. So I had to refine myself. And it's still a work in progress. I'm still probably the worst editor.
The fact that you had the wherewithal to know you had a deficiency, for lack of a better word, and you wanted to improve yourself. I mean, I think that's a unique trait. A lot of people do not do that. Like, hey, man, I'm here. I'll figure it out internally. But you furthered your education. That's pretty cool.
Well, and I think that comes a little bit from an athletics background and a military background. I was, as from a kid, it was always about goal setting. Okay, what do you want to do? What grades do you want to get? What sports do you want to play? Where do you want to be? So it's like, okay, you attain a goal, and then it's like, okay, then you set the next goal. You're never going to arrive. You're always going to be continuing to chase what you want to be.
Yeah.
So I understood that it was a deficiency, and I also understood that I wasn't going to be able to survive in this world if I didn't get better. So it was humbling because, when I would go into a class and they're, 18, 19, 20 year olds, and there I am, and they're like, "Hey, don't you work for the Ravens?" And I'm like, "Oh man," it's a little bit embarrassing, but I was like, you know what? It is, like you said, it's a good thing. I want to get better, and Kevin really supported that. So I got better with the writing, got a little bit better with the editing, and was taking over some of the writing that he was doing. And then later on, as I progressed, it was more assistant coaches, then coordinators. And then the last couple of years that Kevin was here, he really had me intimately involved with he and Coach Harbaugh. So I was learning the process as we went, because it could have been very easy for Kevin to do what he did. And, he had Ozzie, and he had Art and then Steve, and he had Dick Cass, and just say, "Hey, I've got these guys, you do what you do." And then when I leave, it's going to be, "Hey, figure it out."
Yeah.
So it was gracious of him to do that. And then I continued to move up, and there's goods and bads of moving up, as you know. I loved being in the locker room. I loved being the player guy. I loved those relationships. I'm like, I will never leave that. I always want to have that. But as I've grown in my career and my responsibilities, I can't be in there as much. I can't have those relationships, which kills me, because I love that. I still have tertiary relationships, but not like I had, like you had with Cal, like I had with Ray and Ed and Jonathan and those guys. But on the other side of that, being intimately involved in the things that I was begging for when I was younger, when you're talking to the owner, when you're talking to the president, the GM, the head coach about things that are like, "Hey, I want your input on this." All of those lessons that Kevin taught me and brought me along as I was younger helped me to get into that position. And I'm sure, as you do every day, you kind of pinch yourself and like, wow, this is my job. This is, it's not really a job because you love it, but this is what I'm doing. And there are only 32 people in the world that do this job. Yeah. And so those long days in November when we've maybe lost 2 in a row and it's gray outside and I'm feeling sorry for myself, I've got to say what I do is really cool. And I'm thankful for being here.
Great. Now, you touched on this briefly, but this year is very different for you and your team. A new head coach for the first time in a long time. I mean, what's that been like for you and Patrick and the team, getting Coach Minter up to speed on, hey, now you're head coach, here are the responsibilities, here are the media that covers us day to day. How do you like to do things? How's that process been?
Well, first of all, it's humbling because this is the first time I've worked with a head coach younger than me. So I'm like, you walk in, I'm like, oh, holy crap, I'm older than you. But Jesse is an incredible human being. He's obviously a great coach, but just as a man, he's great. He's humble. He's about relationships. He's about collaboration, working together. He knows what he doesn't know yet. And it helps that he was here. He was in this building for years. Yeah. We saw him. Now, when I first saw him, I was like, how have you changed? Because I didn't know you had a voice when you were young. He had his head down and he was working, and he was a quality control guy. And he said, hey, I was taught you keep your head down, speak when spoken to, and you learn. But to see his evolution from when he first came into now is amazing. And it's different. We had 18 years, for the majority of a lot of people's careers in the communications department, and some, well beyond that, it was John Harbaugh. So that changed. It can be hard because you're used to things a certain way. But there's danger in the comfort zone, so we've had to expand ourselves a little bit, a lot more writing, a lot more getting to know how bios are going to change, how we write them with coaches, how we're going to deal differently with the media, how we're going to deal differently with the players, how we prep. When I first sat down with him for his introductory press conference, we went over some things that I had to shoot, and we went over everything. And then he went and did a great job. And then since then, I've said, hey, is that the right way you want to be prepped? What else can I give you when we do his podium sessions? We met earlier this week as we're leading into training camp and say, hey, is that the right cadence? Do you want to do it at this time? Do you need anything else? Am I giving you too much? So it's a learning process, but he's been so gracious, and he's learning this too. I mean, this is his first time as a head coach. He had been in the building, but he hadn't been in the building in this capacity, and he hadn't dealt with everybody, particularly communications person, that way before. He had dealt with them a little bit, but not as much as a head coach does. So it's been really collaborative, and hey, this is kind of how we did things in San Diego. What do you think? Okay, that's great. This is how we do things here. Yeah, that's great, but let's change it a little bit. So it's been great, and there's that energy in the building. New energy and new coaches, really cool. And it's been fantastic.
Yeah, it's exciting. I think the whole fan base is very excited for the season. Chad, I would say I look at what you guys do, and I say, I don't know if I could do it now. Like the PR world with teams have changed so dramatically since my days, and like now, athletes having social media platforms, teams having it. You have creators. You have media trying to break news, and they're rushing to judgment sometimes on Twitter or X. How do you manage all that? And how do you gauge, when to react and when not to react and hold back? I mean, and there's a never-ending flow of information that's much different than it was not that long ago.
Yeah, it's crazy. I can't believe what social media has done. Even the last 3 or 4 years, much less the last 10 years. Kevin and I joked, like, when he was in it, and even really when I started with the Niners, if something happened at 7 or 8 o'clock at night, a player gets in trouble, something happened, we had until 7 o'clock the next morning to really prepare for it. Now, it's like that. There are goods and bads to that. I think for players, being able to have a platform is a good thing if they use it in the right way. Probably the best person I have ever seen personally in our building doing that was Torrey Smith. The way he handled himself as a professional, handled himself as a player, building on his platform, positivity, family, foundation, things of that nature. So it could be spectacular for players. It could also be very, very detrimental. What you post, how you post, when you post. And then really the world has opened up. There were, back in the day, if someone was going to write a story or report a story, they had to go to their editor. They had to get sign off and, okay, hey, who are your sources? You have to have we have to verify these 2 sources. And now the gatekeepers are gone. And there is a rush to be first rather than right. With the understanding that if you're not right, you really don't have to go back and apologize, because the cycle goes so quickly that is kind of forgotten. So it's tough, and we've had to evolve. It continues to be a learning process. One of the things that really over the past probably 6 months has been really hard is the proliferation of AI content, where there's an article that looks like, if it's on Facebook or whatever, it looks like that's really serious, and oh my gosh, they have the photos and the logo looks right. And then you click on it and it's like, Ray Lewis left Ravens high and dry and flew to Barbados instead of doing something. And
can't trust anything.
What? You can't trust anything. Yeah. And really, we talk to other teams, you talk to the leagues, and it's like, what can you do? And it's really, really hard. Our security and IT professionals are like, every time you squash one, another one pops right back up.
Crazy.
So that's really tough. And so the team O&O platforms are really, really important. And I think our team does a great job with it, with our social media presence, the things that we do with our internal shows. So hopefully you get to a point where people will say, you know what, if I don't trust it, I'm going to go check with the Ravens. But it's difficult. I can't turn my phone off ever.
No.
And we're sitting there at dinner and there are constant updates because I have alerts when Adam Schefter or Ian Rappaport or Mike Garafalo or Jonathan Jones post something. So technology has made our jobs much, much easier with email and the ability to reach out. But it's made it a lot harder to to weave your way through what is true, what is false, how you react, when you react. It's a learning process, and every situation is different.
Yeah, it's the Wild West in a lot of ways.
Yes.
And it changes all the time. So one thing when I'm talking to young PR people about being in a team environment, I always maintain that being in your role, your Patrick's, the team there's role, is such a tricky thing because you have four separate groups of people, right? You have the athletes, you have the coaching staff, you have the front office, and you have the media. And you are the person or the people in the middle having to build trusting relationships with all of them. And I find that incredible. Like that's you, if you're able to do that effectively, it's really a gift. I mean, ultimately, certainly the media knows your allegiance to the team, but you got to build those relationships too. Talk a little bit about how you guys have managed to do that so well. Granted, you've been here a long time. You know when media folks come in, you know the way things work at your place and what you like to do, but it's a tricky balance. I think unique to sports in a lot of ways.
It is. And I think trust is built through consistency. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not going to be pissed off with me. I'm not going to be pissed off with them. If
Right.
you know the way you write a story, what you say, what you do, how you go about it, I'll probably be upset about certain things. They're going to be upset with me all the time because I'm going to have to say no, or you can't report that, or hey, you have this wrong. But when you have so many people that you're trying to serve, it's hard. You know, they're going to be a group or multiple groups each and every day that's upset with you because you know you obviously we serve the organization, but there are going to be things that a media member writes that they're like, well, hey, how come you didn't head that off at the pass? Media members are going to be upset because we're not going to give them access. Fans are going to be upset because of something someone said or something someone did. Really, it's about consistency and communication. And there have been many times where something has happened and someone has written in to a contact us or even to me personally, and I'll hop on the phone and just, whether it's a fan, it's a media member, whatever it is, and explain our side. And, particularly from the fan perspective, I think people appreciate that they can talk to somebody and hear a live voice. They might not agree with what I have to say. I might not agree with what they have to say. But this isn't just, some people say, oh, this is $1 billion industry, $1 billion owner who doesn't care. No, Steve cares deeply about this community and our fans. We care deeply about this community and our fans. And if there's something that has upset them, I want them to be able to voice that. We can hopefully at the end of it, shake hands and say, hey, we agree to disagree. We do that often with the media. There are often times that I'm going to disagree with the head coach or the GM or the president on the way we're approaching something.
Right.
But I understand once the decision is made, whether it's something I agree with or not, I'm going to execute that. So I think it's that trust and the consistency of doing that over and over that hopefully gains that trust with people.
Well, listen, you just touched on something I want to ask you about. Really cool. The Ravens have always been a high priority on the community. I mean, I noticed that I was with the Orioles for a year when the Ravens came in and noticed just right away it was about community. And congrats to the whole team over there. Just won the ESPY for 2026 Sports Humanitarian Team of the Year. That is really cool. I mean, it feels like that's just kind of in the Ravens DNA. We've been very blessed. You guys lean on us for sometimes for some of these announcements, which are an honor to work with you on. But talk about that. It feels like that is such a driver behind everything you guys do.
It really is. And it's in our mission statement to win football games on the field and be a positive force in the community. It started with Art and Art Modell and really Steve as he was kind of on his hip learning before he took over as principal owner. And he wanted to continue that. So it starts with Steve and it starts with Renee and what the Bisciotti family stands for. And that's what brings it into the organization. And Heather Darney and Kelly Talent and Drew Meyer on our community relations team are tireless in what they do. And there are so many requests, and we can't do everything, but you want to do something for everybody. So as we serve the players and their foundations, as we serve the organization and what they want to do, the different groups that we're involved in, it's a pleasure, but it is a lot. And you want to do everything. You can't be everything to everybody, but it is really important because we are in this community. We live in this community. We're here. Our children are in this community. So showing them the right way to do things, our children, and say, hey, you have to give back, showing the players and having the players buy in and the coach and the GM. It's just, it's special and it's important. And it's not, you don't do things to get recognized. It is incredible to get recognized. And I think we are either the third or fourth NFL team to ever win that award. It's across all sports. So very proud of that. And it's incredible to be recognized. And it's a tribute to Steve and Heather and our CR team. But that's not why we do it. And it's not for that recognition. And it's for those days in June where the player says, hey, I want to do something for the community. There can be no cameras there. You can't tell anybody about it, but I want to give away backpacks. I want to have a football camp. I want to do something. And I love that. Yeah. I love it from the fact that these guys want to do things for the right way. But it's also like, oh, geez, let me tell that story. It's a great story to tell. It's a great story to tell. Steve's the same way. He does so much that he won't let us publicize. And I think that's probably the core of it. That's maybe why we are so good at it, is because that's not why we do it. We do it because we know we can help the community, and that's important to us.
Well, it's all those things behind the scenes, but there's also some really big, audacious things. I think you're the third NFL team to have its own Boys and Girls Club, right, in Baltimore. I mean, what a project that turned into. College track, first NFL partnership. They're growing that now, and they have a location here in Baltimore. So really great stuff. And then the other day, I saw a video from you guys of Steve talking to the team right before you broke out of OTAs. Yes. I thought that was really cool. I was like, what is Steve going to say to these guys? It was about spending time with the family, being with the family before your life gets fully committed to football for the next several months. So that was cool to listen to.
Yeah, I think that's why you see this, John. That's why I've been here for 25 years. That's why Kevin Byrne was here for 30 years, and Patrick Estate. We have so many, Kevin Rocklitz and Brad Downs. We have so many people that have been here because you are looking at this and like, where's it going to be better? Yeah. Steve, every time you see him, hey, how's Wendy? How are the kids? It's just, he is a spectacular human being. And if you didn't know who he was and you're just talking to him, you'd never know that he was a billionaire owner of an NFL franchise. He's just a good human being. And he ingrains that in this building. And I think that's the great thing. And so then you don't feel guilty. I think back in the day, people felt guilty because you had to be in here all the time, and it's the NFL, and you got to do this. People felt guilty to take time with their families.
Right.
And we don't feel that anymore. And that was one of the things when I took over. I said, hey, look, I don't care what we have going on. If you have a family issue, good or bad, if it's a funeral, if it's a wedding, we can figure it out. None of us are irreplaceable. If I can't make it to a practice or a game, guess what? Everybody else is going to pick it up. If you can't make it, we will pick it up. So that's important. We don't get the time back. We speak all the time about the kids. My kids are growing like that, and they're going to be out of the house soon. So that's the priority. And if we don't love up our family, if we don't spend that time with them when they know they're not going to see us for a long time, then what are we doing this for?
For sure.
And I want to spend as much time as I can with my kids. And as Wendy says, she goes, okay, today is July 24th, tomorrow's February, because it's just like, as soon as we kick off, it is like, it is all gas, no brakes. And to be able to have people, the families that we have, to support us in that and understand the sacrifices we make and are willing to, hey, I know I have to go to 3 different practices and games when you are on the road. I know I have to do this. You're not going to have time in training camp. To have that support for us we wouldn't be able to do this without it.
Well, and it starts at top, like you said, with Steve, and then Dick and Sashi and you and everybody, like, it just talks about it and lives it, and then it encourages the whole organization to work that way. It's so so healthy because we all know the demands of the job. Couple more, Chad, and I'll let you go because I know things are heating up. It kind of alludes to what you were just saying about getting away, but like the NFL, I think, has done the most remarkable job of owning the year. Like back in the day, it was like, okay, a little training camp and it's a season, but now you're like free agency. The combine is a thing, right? The combine wasn't a thing forever. And you got drafts, rookie camps, OTAs, camps, a season. It's a never-ending cycle. So I guess I was going to ask you about how you recharge, but it sounds like it's priority right before training camp. Last week, you guys were all together and away from the team for a bit. But it really, truly never ends between the social media influx of news and then the schedule that the NFL has created has really made this a 12-month-a-year gig.
Yeah, which is fantastic. A great job by the NFL for doing that. And I often laugh at people that I meet or my friends like, hey, what do you do in the off season? Where do you go? And I'm like, well, there really is no off season. But yeah, you do. You make it a priority whenever you can get away from it. I always have my phone on me just in case something's going on. But whenever you can get away from it and spend time with your family, it's important. And those weekends. Particularly in the off season when we have Saturdays and Sundays off.
Yeah.
What are you going to do at that time? You're going to go golfing. You're going to no, I'm going to spend time with my family. We're going to go play pickleball as a family. We're going to go to a movie, whatever it is, spending that time to recharge. And the organization increasingly over the years has done a better job of saying, hey, look, these couple of weeks, around the 4th of July and leading in, if you don't have to be in here, don't be in here. Take your time, do those things. And so there's still things that pop up every once in a while that you have to deal with. But I think there's been a great understanding and we're thankful for this organization. And as you said, Steve, at the top, for understanding you need that time because it's a grind. This is, as I said, I'm so blessed to do this job and I absolutely love it, but it's a grind.
Yeah, for sure. 2 more questions. I will let you go, Chad. And I appreciate it again. Thank you for your time talking to Chad Steele with the Ravens. It's been a great conversation. I find that now as media continues to evolve from non-traditional, right, influencers, bloggers, all these categories that weren't around. It used to be the beat reporters, right, or TV and radio folks. And now you have this new set of media, and then you have to define the legitimacy and the numbers. And how do you handle it? How do you analyze this is who we should be paying more attention to, and this is just a fan with a microphone, right? I mean, that seems very hard to me and way harder than it was when I was in the game.
It is. It's really hard, and it's really situation by situation. You look at where Barstool Sports is, and they're a powerhouse. Well, how did they start? They started with a couple knucklehead guys reporting and betting on sports. Would you have allowed them in your building at the beginning? Heck no. But as they go. So I think it's a lot of how that person, that influencer positions themselves. And do we want our brand on those channels? There's no shortage of people trying to get in this building and cover the team. We only have so much bandwidth. We only have so many spots. We only have so many opportunities. So really being strategic in where you're looking at, where we are positioning our people. And sometimes players will come to us and say, hey, this person reached out and I want to do it. Okay, hey, we'll facilitate that. You have to have, kind of hard and fast rules as to who you're going to allow in and who you're not. Every training camp, we do 2 days where we allow some media members in that aren't going to be here for the season or really won't be here for the totality of training camp, but allow them the opportunity to get the experience of covering
That's a cool approach. Yeah.
Yeah. So we try to do it. And there are, we don't want Chad Steele from chadsteele.com who has 52 followers,
Right.
He won't be out here. But people that we can go back, look at, see what they've done, how they've done it, see their following, because you want to give as many people a chance as possible, because I wouldn't be here if Charlie Dayton didn't give me a chance back when I had no experience. So you don't want to say, hey, you can't have anything, but you also have to understand who we can provide, when we can provide is limited. And so you really have to go back and look. And if people are reporting, writing, doing whatever they are the right way, if they have some followers that everyone can benefit from. But, also talking to the people that are just getting a start in it and saying, hey, look, I think this is how you should go approach getting a wider audience, getting a little more experience. So then hopefully 2-3 years down the line, then we can have you out here for a day or two during training camp.
Yeah, really cool. Last thing, Chad, going back to your start in your career that we talked about early on, what advice would you give to young communications people, whether it's, I really want to work in sports? Because when I started working in sports, there was people barely knew it was a thing, right? And then now it's incredibly demanding. If I want to get into sports or if I want to get into anything, what advice do you give young people about trying to launch their career effectively? Oh,
man. God, so much. I could go on for hours about this. I would say, number one, it's the 2 R's, relationships and reputation. Your reputation will always precede you, and relationships are paramount. I wouldn't have gotten my first internship with the Panthers if it wasn't for my head coach. I wouldn't have gotten the internship here if it wasn't for Charlie Dayton standing on the table for me. I wouldn't have gotten the job in San Francisco if Kevin Byrne didn't stand there. It's that relationship equity, and your reputation follows you. Sports is massive, but it's a small world. So your reputation, people will know.
So, when I'm meeting with young folks, I always tell them, like, get out there, meet people, get a foot in the door, do what you got to do. I mean, whether it's shadowing for a day like you did with Charlie originally, whether it's, just getting out and meeting people for a cup of coffee and learning, figure out where you want to be as best you can, and then just ask for advice, ask for some guidance, and do whatever you got to do. Don't worry so much about your role and the money and the title. That will all come if you are successful and you work hard and you put your best foot forward and all that good stuff. But just go above and beyond. Like when you told me the story about your start with Charlie and Carolina and going back and forth, and then ESPN and being, in the basement and editing all that, it resonated with me, because it seems like I feel like an old fart saying this, but sometimes that's lost on some generation that I want them to do better.
I 100% agree with you. And, a great example of that is Drew Meyer, who's our community relations manager. Drew called me. He was at Syracuse, and he called me as a freshman and said, hey, I want to get into sports PR because he's here from Baltimore. So he said he reached out to all 32 teams. I think we may have been the only team that reached back out. So we had a conversation and said, hey, you should do this. So he did all those things and called me back to sophomore year and said, hey, I have to do this paper. Can I interview you for it? Yes. So we do that. Okay, do this. And so we went, and a couple of years later, he's applying for a CR internship. I had forgotten about this conversation. And we hired him as an intern because he was the best candidate. And he says, hey, I don't know if you remember. I was like, oh my God, I do remember now. Yeah. And it's funny, I came back from vacation and the paper that he wrote was on my desk. And he said, my mom found this and I wanted to show it to you. And I was like, wow. But it's that persistence. And he said, this is my path. This is what I want to do. What do I need to do? Okay, I'm going to do that. What next? And so that's lost. And for me, as a season-long intern, I was making $4.15 an hour. And then I go up to ESPN and I was making pennies. Luckily, my parents had moved to Connecticut. I was able to live with them. Yeah. I went out to San Francisco. John, I was making $22,500 a year.
In San Francisco, no less.
Yeah. My apartment that's smaller than my office now was like $1,800 a month. When I paid everything, I had $54 a month to live off. But I was like, you know what? I'm 23, 24 years old, and I'm working in the NFL. So that sacrifice, I think oftentimes with young people, it's like, okay, hey, I thank you for the job. I've been here for 8 months. Where's my promotion and raise? Right. And it is a constant goal setting. It's not about the destination; it's about the journey. And yes, where I am now, where we are now, is fantastic, and I love it. I feel like we've earned it, but there were so many stops along the way that we had to do. And I wouldn't change it for the world. I love struggling as a young 20-year-old in San Francisco and having to save up. Like it prepared me for what I'm doing now. But I just think that the persistency and I think young people have to understand, I'm sure you do it too. I talk to schools, I talk to young professionals, high school, college. Hey, what do you want to do? Hey, reach out to me. I'll try to connect you. And I tell them all the time, don't be offended if I don't get back to you soon or don't get back. Keep on reaching out because there's so much on our plate. It's not that I don't want to do it. It's just that, hey, bring it to the top of my inbox. Yeah. So that persistency is really, really important. And I think a human touch. Like whenever I meet somebody, it used to be business cards. I'd write it on the back. But if I meet somebody, I put them in my phone in the notes. I put where I met them, who I met him through, what we talked about. Because then if we talk 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years later, I go back to it and say, oh, yeah, I met you through John Maroon. You had just adopted a Siberian Husky. How, it must be 2 years old. Bring something, because then that, as I said with Drew Meyer, I do remember that. It brings you back, and it's that personal touch. And this is a little old school, as you and I are old school. I love handwritten notes. I do handwritten notes because my 11-year-old could type an email, but
we just had these made. Everyone's got these on their desk. I'm like, please send them. They are impactful.
I have a drawer full of them from probably the last 15 years. It's so impactful because you take the time to do something, put something personal in there. It's old school, and some people may say it's cheesy, but I love getting them and I love giving them. And it's just, it's that extra step.
Same. And to your point, like, enjoy the journey. I mean, my fondest memories are, working in New York with my mentor, Phyllis Marriage, at the league office, and working in Cleveland with the then Indians, and, it's struggling. It wasn't about money. So enjoy the journey. It goes like that. As you and I know, it goes so fast, and you look back very fondly on those times when it might have been a little bit of a struggle or a learning curve or some stupid mistakes you made as a youngster, but so what? You learn from it and you build. It's so cool. But it's great advice, Chad. And I really am grateful for your time. I'm grateful for our friendship. And it's been an honor knowing you all these years. And good luck. I know your world's about to get a little bit crazy. We're watching. We're all very excited for the season.
No, thank you. You're the best, John. And I was honored to do this. I love that you're doing it, and I'm honored to do it. So just thanks for having me on, and we'll see you out here soon, hopefully.
That was Chad Steele on Spin is a Four-Letter Word, Maroon's Mark. Chad, we'll see you soon.
Hey, it's John Maroon again. Thank you for listening to Spin is a Four-Letter Word. And just a reminder, if you can, follow us on all the major social media platforms at Maroon PR. If you have an idea or suggestion, let us know what you think, and we'll see you soon.